Can you believe what the Ford CEO has done to send shockwaves through the industry? Today, we got a jaw-dropping revelation that's shaken the automotive industry to its core. The Ford CEO's sudden move that left the entire car world in shock. Buckle up, because today, we're about to dive headfirst into this automotive bombshell that changed the game. Have you heard Ford CEO Jim Farley's honest comments about Ford's shortcomings versus Tesla? In a stunningly candid interview with Motor Trend, Ford CEO Jim Farley acknowledged in blunt terms that his company trails far behind Tesla in several key EV capabilities. For a legacy Detroit automaker, this level of transparency about shortcomings versus an upstart competitor was virtually unheard of. According to Farley, Tesla maintains a sizable lead over Ford in critical areas like battery cost and range, charging speed, software and OTA updates, level 2+ autonomy, and overall EV profitability. He did not mince words in stating that Ford has work to do if it wants to catch up. For example, Farley admitted that Ford is still struggling to bring down battery costs enough to make affordable long-range electric vehicles that can turn a profit, while Tesla has leveraged its scale and vertical integration to slash battery prices ahead of the industry. Similarly, Tesla's cars can drive 50 to 100 more miles on a single charge than comparably priced Ford models due to the better battery chemistry, aerodynamics, and drivetrain efficiency. This range advantage alleviates customers' anxiety and enables Tesla to charge premium pricing. Farley also conceded that Tesla is years ahead when it comes to over-the-air software updates that continuously improve vehicle capabilities and user experience. Ford is still working on the basic infrastructure and talent to compete here. Additionally, Ford lags badly in using camera and sensor-based autonomy to offer advanced assisted driving features. Tesla's investments in AI for autopilot and FSD allow it to recognize revenue from adding self-driving capabilities, while Ford relies on an outdated ADAS technology. Altogether, Farley's frank admissions paint the picture of a company facing a sizable tech gap, despite having a century head start in auto manufacturing. And this is exactly the transparent mindset he knows Ford needs in order to have any shot at catching Tesla. His willingness to clearly assess Ford's deficiencies represents an important first step. For a legacy company like Ford that has dominated the industry for generations, this humility was nothing short of shocking. But for Ford to survive the electric and software-driven auto revolution, Farley understands incrementalism will not cut it. And kudos to him for being upfront about the sizable challenge ahead. It is a sobering but necessary wake-up call if Ford hopes to remain competitive in the 21st century auto arena. Now, were you surprised to hear Ford CEO openly admit that they are trailing Tesla in many EV capabilities? Do you think his transparency will push Ford to improve quicker? Not only did Ford CEO Jim Farley candidly address his own company's shortcomings compared to Tesla, he also called out the auto industry overall for moving too slowly to embrace electrification. According to Farley, legacy automakers are still not displaying enough urgency despite the rapid EV progress by Tesla and aggressive commitments by startups like Rivian, Lucid, and others. He warns that at the current pace, Detroit giants risk being disrupted in just a few years. In Farley's view, incumbent manufacturers remain overly focused on prolonging gas-powered cars, both internally and in their marketing. Their transition to EVs has been gradual and half-hearted rather than swift and decisive. He highlighted how many established automakers are still developing ICE and EV models simultaneously, spreading their resources thin and delaying their pivot. Some are even lobbying to extend emission compliance deadlines, resisting the inevitable demise of fossil fuel vehicles. Farley argued that clinging to gas-powered profit centers is slowing Detroit's competitiveness. In his words, the clock has run out for taking small steps. The industry needs to make bold leaps. With rising startup challengers also gunning for market share, Farley says legacy automakers have no time left for gradual transition plans if they want to survive. The future is here, and those who delay their commitment to EVs risk total disruption. For a long-time industry titan like Ford to call out his peers so directly only highlights how much room the auto business has to change. Farley clearly believes surviving the 21st century will require agility and urgency that most incumbent players currently lack. And once again, kudos to him for speaking frankly and lighting a fire under his fellow CEOs. Now, do you agree with Farley that most big automakers are moving too slowly on EVs? Which companies do you believe need to pick up the pace? One of the most startling admissions made by the Ford CEO Jim Farley was how deficient Ford remains in software capabilities compared to electric vehicle pioneer Tesla. According to Farley, Ford's software struggles are so pronounced that they have to pay other companies just to borrow basic capabilities. Farley confessed that Ford is essentially licensing and paying for over-the-air update software from partners because the company has not yet developed in-house infrastructure, talent, and know-how to support this now table stakes EV feature. Meanwhile, Tesla has offered advanced OTA updates to customers for years, integrated natively into their industry-leading software stack. This reliance on third-party software providers highlights just how far Ford needs to climb to compete. As Farley acknowledged, Ford is still working on software 1.0 baseline functionality, while Tesla is already on software 2.0 and beyond, pioneering autonomous driving, app-based services, big data analytics, and more. Commenting on the software gap, Farley said that someday he hopes Ford might be able to actually license out its software stack the way Apple or Google do. But he readily admits that this is many years away, as Ford has not yet built any core software platforms or capabilities that other companies would pay for. While harsh, Farley's transparency, once again, shows that Ford understands the depth of their software challenges, which is the first step towards closing the gap. Still, it was a sobering experience for an industry leader like Ford to confess that they currently have to pay for the privilege of catching up on basic EV software, essentially using training wheels. This underscores just how daunting Ford's task is on the software front. Transitioning from minimal software on gas vehicles to developing a cutting-edge vertically integrated stack for connected EVs will require a top-down transformation. Significant time, talent, and resources must be poured into this effort for Ford to have any hopes on getting on par with Tesla. For Ford CEO to openly acknowledge this momentous challenge was definitely startling, but honestly welcomed. The auto giants of Detroit clearly have their work cut out for them on the software side, but if they follow Farley's lead in transparently confronting their shortcomings, perhaps one day they can turn the tide. Of course, we'd like to know, were you surprised to hear that Ford is still so far behind Tesla on software that they have to pay for help catching up? And do you believe that they can close the software gap over the next 5 years? After over a century of producing gasoline-powered vehicles, Ford faces a major cultural change as it transitions to electric vehicles. Longtime employees, engineers, and executives grew up with internal combustion engines and may find it hard to let go of that legacy. As CEO Jim Farley notes, some team members are still emotionally attached to the combustion technology and think of EVs as just an accessory rather than the future. This mindset poses a roadblocks to Ford's shift towards electrification. To truly embrace EVs, the company needs new perspectives and ways of thinking. Producing competitive electric vehicles requires re-imaging vehicle design, performance, manufacturing, sales, and the customer experience. It touches every aspect of the business. To drive this cultural change, Ford has begun extensive retraining and educational programs. The goal is to shift mindsets throughout the company and excite people about the transition to EVs. There is a steep learning curve, even for seasoned automotive veterans. Ford is investing in training to make sure its workforce has the knowledge and skills to thrive in an electric future. This includes immersive courses in battery technology, power electronics, software, continuous improvement methods, and more. The training reaches all levels, from factory workers to top executives. Moving forward, Ford aims to infuse its culture with a dynamic startup mindset tuned for the unique opportunities and challenges of EVs. The legacy automaker hopes to prove that it can recreate itself as a leader of the electric revolution. Now, do you think that the deeply ingrained gas-powered culture at legacy automakers like Ford is slowing down their EV process? And what is your evaluation on how difficult this mindset will be to change? Hats off to Ford CEO Jim Farley for his blunt critique of both Ford's own EV shortcomings and the auto industry's sluggish pace overall. His transparency about playing catch-up shows that Ford recognizes the existential threat to their dominance. While the deck is stacked up against them, his urgency and willingness to shake things up gives us hope that one day Ford can close the gap with Tesla, but they have a long road ahead. Let us know your reactions to Farley's surprising candor, and do you think that Ford and other legacy automakers can adapt in time, or will they cede the future to Tesla and other new age EV companies? Be sure to share your takes and answer to all the questions we asked in this video in the comments below.